Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. I am Matt Capper, and there's another video on Raid Shadow Legends, and another in our series of I built them so you don't have to. Today we're going to talk about a Magic Affinity champion from the Orcs who is kind of unheralded, but at further closer look could be the difference maker in your runs, especially in places like the Iron Twins where you need this sort of survivability. So without further ado, let's take a look at MEROUKA. MEROUKA is one of those champions who is not flashy. She is a full support champion, though she does have some opportunity to hit a little bit hard. You have to keep in mind that she only has one attacking ability. That is her A1, her A2, and A3 are all about support, so there's no point in really trying to build her out for a nuking champion, though you can absolutely build her out for secondary damage, supplementary damage. But let's take a look at MEROUKA's kit here so you can get a better understanding of where I think she's best used, and we'll show you that in a minute. But here is her kit. The big thing is this passive. Each time this champion is hit, increases their defense by 2.5%, stacks up to 20%, resets each round so you can't carry it through multiple rounds, but very good for boss fights, very good for sustained fights to keep her alive. Why do you want to keep her alive? Well, it's her A3 and her A2. Unfortunately, the downfall of this is it doesn't really increase her damage. Obviously, it does increase her damage on her A1, but because it's just an A1, I did build her out full crit just to find out. The damage wasn't enough to really suggest building her out to make use of this extra 20% defense. But from a survivability perspective, works perfectly well. Her A3 has a 4-turn cooldown on a 2-turn revive on death. Very good in areas if you're not quite in that survival mode. It's very useful to have someone like MEROUKA to keep your team alive. Iron Twins is a perfect example of this, right? Where you are going to take damage. Some of your guys may die. There's just the opportunity to keep them alive in the long run. And talking about keeping them alive, this A2, which has a 3-turn cooldown, removes all debuffs from a target ally and heals them for half their health. Very strong very strong cleanse and heal. It on a 3-turn cooldown, very good to use in many areas where you're having a single target taking more damage than the rest. For example, you have a single nuker or a target that's being hit. What I think of is, for example, War Chief. Now, I'm not going to take it into Magma Dragon, but depending on the affinity, the War Chief can take a bit of hit. Perfect. MEROUKA comes in, revive on death in case the worst happens, but the reality is she can keep cycling back, removing any debuffs that might be on War Chief, but more importantly, healing him for 50% of his health so he can keep taking those hits from the Magma Dragon. Perfect example there. And then her A1 just adds a little bit of a bonus here. It's a 30% booked chance to place a 2-turn 30% decreased speed, and it is each hit, so she does have a 2-hitter. Gives her a really good opportunity to land that decreased speed. Remember, it's a 2-turn, so essentially you have 4 attacks to be able to get that 30% chance. So it's a pretty decent A1. Would like it to be a little higher, but you know, beggars can't be choosers. Now, let's talk about how I built her out, and then we'll take her into the content that I feel like she is most impactful. Though, like I said, there are other areas. Anytime there's a boss fight where you need this ability to survive, she's going to be very strong. I think things like the Eternal Dragon might be a very good one. Any of the Frostbite and the Nether, those are all very strong places for a champion like this to just help you out with that survivability, the revive on death, and the overall heals. And of course, the fact that she's able to pump up her defense so that she just keeps taking more and more damage without dying. So let's first of all, we'll take out her masteries here. I did put her in a resistance. Now, there may be certain content if you're using her in this that you're going to want to go down that War Master proc. This is not one of them, is where I mainly use her for this particular video. But you want some resistance. I like the extra resistance. I like the AoE decrease. All these things is all about just being more and more survivable, right? Being able to take as much damage as possible so you can keep the rest of your team healed. And then, of course, we go with Sniper. That gives us an extra chance to land that decreased speed. And, of course, Master Hexer, because if we do land it, it's a nice opportunity to extend that. And, of course, the additional accuracy. As far as her artifacts go, here they are. I put her in a 3-piece stone skin, but in this case, the stone skin isn't about the stone skin. It's about the increased defense, the plus 40 resistance, and the plus 8 HP. A lot of people put stone skin in this big bubble of you got to have 4 or 6 pieces or they're not that good. But the reality is HP, resistance, and defense on a 3-piece set work perfectly for where we're taking her in, along with a perception set and a cruel set. Where are we going to take her in? Well, you can probably guess it by now, but let's take a look at her total stats here. 58,000, 632 HP, 3378 defense, and 717 resistance, 338 accuracy. Where are we taking this beautiful champion in? Well, wait 1 second, because I got one more thing for you. Of course, we have the infographic. So let's talk about the infographic. We'll show it on the screen here. There it is, right there. And MEROUKA, she's a support healer, a reviver, whatever you want to call her. There's a bunch of things I want to do a shout out here, because this champion is actually somewhat complex, right? It has many different areas depending where you're trying to go with it. So take a look. For example, I say HP secondary, but I also mention sets: perception, perception, stone, accuracy, bolster, and shield. I would add to that defiant, guardian, maybe, if you need to, depending on the content, and of course stalwart. Anything that can help you survive so that you can help your team survive. Now, why are these sets so wildly different, and why do I put secondary for HP? Well, because she's a defense-based champion, I did cook her defense 5,000 plus. That's just an easy default. You can see I myself don't have her at that level, because it's all dependent on the content. The content we're going to take her in needs much higher resistance and accuracy, which is why I have asterisks on that. How much accuracy and resistance you need depends on where you're going to use her. We're going to take her into the Iron Twins. The Iron Twins need way more resistance, and we can kick that accuracy down because we're using an increased accuracy buff, which is going to allow us to land those debuffs at a much higher rate, even though we won't have the proper, I think it's about 555 accuracy you need to land. We don't need that, because we're going to be doing that 50% increase accuracy, as you're going to see in the video. So, keep in mind, if you don't need that, if you're not using it for Iron Twins, you can bring those numbers considerably down, and then you have the opportunity, say you're going to use her in Hydra as a secondary healer, or a healer along with, of course, like regen set. Then, of course, you can bring her accuracy resistance down a bit. You can up her defense and up her HP. If you're going to use her in a bolster set or a shield set, obviously crank that HP. She has a base 18,660, really good base HP for shield set, bolster set. So if that's what you need to get through progress in the game, this is how you build her out. And I mean, it just really, like I said, really depends on where you're using her. Defiant is always a great set. That's one of the most underrated sets in the game, and I think it's absolutely showing its value in places like Hydra. A two-piece that can mitigate AoE damage is phenomenal. So I didn't have a graphic. Unfortunately, I would have added that to the list. My apologies. But there's how we have her built out for this infographic, and this is specifically for an Iron Twins build. On the left hand side, the stats goal is more for a general utility and wherever it is you need her. Okay, now with that, let's go into the place. Like I said, is the Iron Twins. We've got a special team put together for you to show you level 15 Iron Twins. And just for giggles, we also did weak affinity, so it's actually the force affinity Iron Twins boss. So we'll take a look at that next. All right, so here we are in the Iron Twins. As you can see, stage 15 against the Force Affinity. I put an all-epic team for your viewing pleasure. What do we have here? We have Aox. Aox is going to extend buffs, going to put a decreased attack, going to help heal, along with Goddess Aniri. I really wanted to not use Goddess Aniri because I know how good she is. Godseeker Aniri, goddess. Well, she's a goddess. She is. She should be a legendary goddess, but she's a Godseeker. And she is going to be there for revives and supplementary heals as well as the extends. We have Claude. Claude's got a great kit, very underrated. The increased accuracy is what we're really pushing here for, but we also have a shield on him, and he does do a decreased crit rate, which does help the survivability of the team. And then we have Geomancer for the damage in the Iron Twins, and of course, MEROUKA is just going to keep that team alive, do her best. So let's play this out and we'll talk about it. All epic team. Not always easy to build an all-epic team, but we got this one done on weak affinity for MEROUKA, so you get a real strong idea of what you can do here. And of course, there we go. Take some hits right off the bat. Get that decreased attack. Get that HP burn. That's the important thing. Now we're going to get some heals, and we're going to get those poisons. Those are always nice as well. And you're gonna see when MEROUKA comes in, she's gonna put that revive on death first. That's good in case anyone gets a miracle death. but you're also going to see her cleanse out champions just to make them safer, right? In this case, Claude is probably the most important champion other than her to survive. Already, we take some damage, but that's okay. We're going to heal ourselves. We're going to get those shields. Man, Claude's shields are amazing. We want Claude to live because he's got that increased accuracy and the shields. We've got, you know, a whole great kit. Increased speed, I forgot to even mention. So, I believe here we get a big heal coming up. No, we get the revive on death. Boom, 2 die. No problem. Revive on death. We also have, you know, the Guardian Angel in case it gets really dire. But here you go. Again, now we've... I'm not sure why she chose Aox there, but now Aox is fully healed. We get some shields up. That's okay. 2 die. We get a revive, and then we get the revive. It is important to have double revivers, especially if you're trying to make an all-epic team here. But I really like the team setup, how we're able to supplement everyone's skills in such a unique way to allow Geo to do the damage, because it's Geo that's doing the damage. Honestly, pretty good time too. 1:27 all epic team. There you go. You know, only 27 seconds off my best time. That's better than some of the times I run with my Duchess and all the fancies. So there you go. MEROUKA, not very sexy on the attack, obviously, but there is that beautiful crit, heals and shields and everything else she's bringing into it. The biggest thing is we wanted to make sure that her accuracy was such that when Claude increased accuracy, Goddess Aniri would, God Seeker in there, she should be a goddess, right? She can extend that, the accuracy and the shields if need be, but mainly the accuracy and the speed, which allows the you know, champions like MEROUKA to land her accuracy while still having that high-end 717, I believe, or 735 resistance. So that's how that goes. The whole team very strong in their abilities, very good in their lanes, and made for a 1:27 key. So there you go. That's where I kind of view her being used. We've already looked at her damage or her kits. We're not going to do any damage testing. Like I said, it's not worth it. We've already talked about her kit. You've seen the infographic. This is going to be a shorter video, but all we have left is to talk about some final thoughts. My final thoughts on MEROUKA. Man, she's going to be unheralded. She's going to be a champion that no one really thinks anything of. Some people might get caught by that her passive, which allows her to ramp up her defense, which may allow her to do more damage. But the reality is she's not doing damage to anything but her default skill, which is not going to be enough damage to really make that a deal. What it is she's got 1288 defense, and so she has this passive that ups it. It's really a cheat code. In my opinion, the passive is probably the least important part of her kit. She could have 1400 defense and not have that passive, and it would be the same thing at the end of the day. It just makes her less tanky at the beginning of each round. I don't know, you know, big deal, but that is not a negative. The fact is she is a strong champion who really helps that survivability. She's got the revive on death. She's got big heal on a 3-turn cooldown. The target gets 50% heal plus a full cleanse. And then that decreased speed. That's the one piece we forgot to really mention. That decreased speed on the Iron Twins boss slows down his speed, which allows us to catch back up and get it. And yeah, it's not 100%, but it doesn't really need to be when you have a Geo team. It's just enough to get that. When you do land that, it does get your team a chance to breathe, get some revives back, get some cleanses, some heals, right? And get re-prepared and reset to hit that boss some more. So very strong champion overall in that survivability. Very unheralded, very unsexy. It's not a nuker. It's not got this wild gadget. It's just a champion that's going to help you survive. I really like her. I think that if you're mid-game, early game, you pull this champion, you have some survivability issues, she's going to help you with that. And that's something that is wildly important in this game with so many champions. You need champions that can help you get through content in the early and mid game. She's absolutely fits the bill. And you can see even into the end game, when you have end game gear, you can use a champion like this, who you're not going to probably use anywhere outside of Faction Wars. You can immediately insert her into something like Iron Twins with a strong other group and get an all epic team on the Iron Twins 15. I do think she could use a couple little changes, and this is just, if for no other reason than because she's too bland, and it really doesn't pull a big, oh, you know, Orcs is one of the easier faction wars. Do you really need her? Arguable. I think that this passive needs to be 50%. And I think it needs to travel through rounds. I think that would be phenomenal. I don't think it breaks her, but I think it makes her really cool. She still isn't going to do a ton of damage, so it's not like the increase to 50%. It should be 5%, stacks to 50, and persists through rounds. I think that would make her an amazing champion, a fun little champion that a lot more people would see a lot more value in. The other thing is, I believe she should have an aura of either resistance or accuracy. I think she, like, people may look at her and go, oh, I you know, damage, she increases her defense, so must be, or oh, she doesn't do damage, she's underwhelming, throw away. But if she had that increased accuracy or an increased resistance, I think that aura would really signal to people, oh, okay, now we know what I need to do with this champion. So my two thoughts for her: increase that to 5%, stacking to 50%, and give her an aura of increased accuracy, give it 50, right? Be a nice little addition to your support tree. Those are my final thoughts on this champion. What do you think? Is MEROUKA someone you think you would use? Did you think she'd be strong enough to get through the Iron Twins? Let me know in the comments down below. Also, be sure to like and subscribe and share with all your friends to help me get to that magical 8,000 subscriber that I am pushing for. And finally, and probably the most important, please be kind, be safe, and we'll see you in the next video.